9 podiums, 2 wins, 11 races, and the man who runs the team looked at that and told a French television crew it was not enough. We will come back to that number because it is the number this entire story turns on. But start with the driver, because the driver spoke first. Charles Leclerc, talking to Planet F1 and other accredited media before the summer break, laid out something he could not explain about his own car. Over the last 3 Grands Prix, he said, there were 2 weekends where Ferrari expected to struggle. They finished first and second. And in the weekend where they expected to do well, they finished 4th and 5th. Then he said the part that made it a story rather than a complaint. In his words, there is clearly a tendency, not one car, both cars. And he closed it with 4 words that sound mild and are not. This, he said, is to be understood. That is a driver, second in a Constructors' Championship, publicly asking his own engineers to go and find out what is wrong with a car that keeps winning. Tell me where you are watching from in the comments, because the country list on this channel has got genuinely strange in the best way, and I read everyone. Subscribe while you're down there, because what happens to this question gets answered at Monza, in public, in front of the loudest crowd on the calendar. Now, before we get to what Fred Vasseur said back, understand why his answer carries the weight it does. Vasseur is not a Ferrari lifer, and he is not a politician who fell into the job. He ran Aesart, he ran Renault, he ran Sauber, and he is one of very few people in the paddock who has personally signed drivers who went on to become world champions. He is also, and this matters here, the man with the least emotional public register of any team principal on this grid. He preaches calm, he refuses race-by-race whiplash. He has spent his entire Ferrari tenure telling reporters not to draw conclusions from single Sundays, which is exactly why the race noticed in Budapest that he seemed more openly frustrated than usual. And when Canal Plus asked him to grade the first half of Ferrari's season, he gave them a school report joke, said the team could do better, and then landed on 3 words: it is not enough. So here is what I want you to notice, and this is the whole video. Leclerc asked a question about the car, Vasseur answered a question about the team, and at no point did either man contradict the other out loud. Let me put that under the light properly. Question 1. Did Vasseur deny the car is inconsistent? No, he never addressed it. He talked about points, about opportunity, about Hungary. Question 2. What did he actually blame for Hungary? Mistakes compounding with one another. That is his phrase, given straight after the race. Errors stacking on errors, not aerodynamics, not the tires. Execution. Question 3. Did he leave himself room? He did, and it is the most careful thing he said all weekend. He pointed out there had not been enough clean air running to know whether either Ferrari could have fought for the win at all. Read that again. The team boss is telling you he cannot say how fast his own car was that day. Question 4. Is he wrong about the points? No, and this is where he has the receipts. Ferrari fell around 100 points behind Mercedes early in this season. Since the Spanish Grand Prix, by his account, Ferrari have scored more points than anybody. In Hungary itself, the weekend everybody calls a disaster, Ferrari outscored Mercedes by a single point. Question 5, and the one nobody asks. If the recovery is real and the points are real, why is the man delivering that news the least happy person in the room? Now hold that thought, because there is a second weekend that answers it, and Leclerc described it in detail that almost nobody picked up. Go back to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Leclerc, speaking afterwards, walked through his own race stint by stint with the flatness of a man reading a fault log. The stint on the softs, he said, was not bad. The first run on the hards was actually quite good. And then, in the second stint on the hards, he had no feeling with the car at all and could not work out what was happening with the tires. Then the softs came good again at the end. Same driver, same afternoon, same compound, twice, behaving like 2 different tires. And he added the sentence that turns a bad Sunday into an engineering problem. These cars, he said, are difficult for everyone to understand. Ferrari just need to be better than the others at deciphering them. Set that against the conditions and it gets stranger. Ambient temperature around 31 degrees, track temperature around 51. The SF26 carries a reputation for being hard on its tires, so the soft compound looked like a liability from the outside. Except Pirelli's softs held up perfectly well that day, which knocks the easy explanation over. Neither Ferrari driver had a fresh set of mediums available, and Ferrari's own long-run data from Budapest, according to technical reporting out of Italy, showed a car that was fastest through the technical corners and then gave that advantage back progressively across about 15 laps. So the pattern Leclerc is pointing at is not imaginary. It is on the team's own telemetry. Then the timeline moves, and here's what changed while everyone was arguing about a bad Sunday. Ferrari have already committed the fix in writing to a schedule. Reporting from Auto Racer, carried by Motorsport, lays out a floor upgrade at Zandvoort aimed squarely at exactly this: tire behavior over a race distance and the operating window of the car. Then Monza, with the second engine upgrade and a dedicated low-drag package, then a fourth aerodynamic package arriving from September onward. And in parallel, the 2027 power unit project has been the priority in the Maranello wind tunnel since June. Read that as a sentence about people rather than parts? The team was already building an answer to Leclerc's question before Leclerc asked it in public, which raises a harder question. If the fix was already scheduled, why did the driver go to the microphones anyway? If you were Vasseur, you had two moves in that press conference and both of them cost you something. Say the car is inconsistent, and you have publicly told your own championship rivals, your own board, and the Italian press that Ferrari do not understand their own machine halfway through a title fight. Or say nothing about the car, talk about execution instead, and let your drivers wear a problem that is not entirely theirs. Which one do you pick? Like this video if you would have defended the car, comment if you would have said what he said, and I will read the split out next time. Subscribe while you are there. Now the numbers, because this is where the two versions stop being a matter of tone. Ferrari go into the break second in the constructors with 307 points from 11 rounds. Mercedes have 379, that is 72. McLaren sit third, 87 behind. And Mercedes have put at least one car on the podium at every single race this season. That last detail is the one that actually explains Vasseur's mood, and it has nothing to do with speed. Ferrari's problem is not that they are slower. Ferrari won at Silverstone, Ferrari were second at Spa, Ferrari won in Barcelona. Their problem is that a rival has produced a podium every single Sunday, while Ferrari have produced 2 wins and 9 podiums across the same 11 weekends. And those are very different shapes of season. One of them is a machine. The other is a car that surprises the people driving it. Hungary alone cost Hamilton 5 points of championship position, with Kimi Antonelli stretching his lead over him from 45 to 50 across that one afternoon. 9 podiums is a lot of trophies. 9 podiums is also, in a season where the leader never falls off, a slow bleed. And the precedent for all of this is on the record, from March, and it has aged into something else entirely. After the Chinese Grand Prix, back at the start of this season, Vasseur was asked about Leclerc struggling to extract the car. His answer then was that this is the biggest regulatory change the sport has had, that it demands more adaptation and a different approach from the drivers, and that Leclerc was doing it. He is doing it, he said. 5 months on, the driver's position has moved. Leclerc is no longer describing something he needs to adapt to. He is describing something that needs to be investigated. In March, the gap between man and machine was the driver's job to close. In August, in his own words, it is to be understood. Nobody made that shift out loud. Both men have simply kept using their own vocabulary, and the vocabulary has drifted apart. There is a structural reason this happens at Ferrari specifically, and it is worth saying because it removes the drama from it. Reporting out of Autosport put it as clearly as anyone has. Mercedes and McLaren, whatever technical failures they suffer, operate with a level of predictability that lets them get ahead of a weekend. Ferrari have been reacting to theirs. A predictable car lets a team make decisions on Friday night. An unpredictable one forces every decision to Sunday afternoon under pressure, with 2 drivers on different strategies and a pit wall guessing. And when a team is forced to be reactive, execution errors are not a separate failure from the car. They are a symptom of it, which means Vasseur talking about mistakes and Leclerc talking about the car may not be 2 diagnoses at all. They may be the same diagnosis, named from 2 different chairs. Now, the best case against everything I have just said, made honestly because it deserves to be. Vasseur may simply be right in the plainest way. In Hungary, Ferrari lost a grid position to a 3-place penalty for impeding, then lost track position to a pit lane speeding penalty. Neither of those is aerodynamics. Neither is tire degradation. A car that surprises you does not put you in the way of another driver's flying lap. And Leclerc himself, in that same set of comments, said these cars are hard for everyone to read, not just for Ferrari. If that is true, then every team is fighting the same fog, and the only thing that separates them is who makes fewer errors inside it. That is precisely what Vasseur said. He may have given the most accurate answer available, and it may just have been the one nobody wanted to hear. So here is where I land, and I want to be exact about the limits of it. I do not know what Fred Vasseur privately thinks about the SF26, and I am not going to pretend the pattern I have shown you proves he is protecting the car at his driver's expense. What I can show you is that a driver publicly asked for the car to be investigated, that the team principal answered on a different subject, that he did the same thing after Hungary, and that he did it again in his summer assessment. That is 3 occasions where the car was on the table and did not get named. 3 is a pattern of 3. It is not proof of intent, because a man is allowed to answer the question he was asked. But asking why the machine keeps falling out of the sentence is a legitimate question, and Leclerc, judging by where he chose to raise it, appears to have concluded the same thing. And 9 is what survives all of it. 9 podiums in 11 races, from a team that won at 2 circuits it expected to lose at and finished 4th and 5th at the one it expected to win. 9 podiums, and a boss who looked at them and said, "It is not enough." He is right. It is not enough, and the reason it is not enough is sitting in a question his own driver had to ask through a microphone instead of through a door. Zandvoort is next, and the floor upgrade Ferrari bring there is aimed at exactly the behavior Leclerc described. Then Monza on the 4th to the 6th of September. If that floor works, Leclerc's question gets answered by a part rather than by a press conference, and none of this matters. If the car is still surprising them at Zandvoort, then a driver who already went public once has no reason to stay quiet the second time. So predict it now. Does Leclerc raise it again after the Dutch Grand Prix, or does the floor shut this down? Say it in the comments, subscribe so you are here when we check that prediction against what actually happens, and hit like if you want the Monza breakdown the day the upgrade runs. Until the next one.